All right, guys, we are going live. Got a new webcam. It's looking pretty good. All right, we're live on YouTube and Instagram right now. And we're going to do some ice fishing Q&A today. So, should be pretty interesting. Don't have any guests tonight. Just going to be me and you guys chatting, talking ice fishing. So, I'm going to be taking comments on YouTube and Instagram tonight, so I'll kind of be watching both here, but all right. Bunch of guys hopping on. I'm assuming nobody's been on the ice yet. It's a little bit early, but I have seen a couple people have gotten on the ice in a few locations, but certainly not myself yet. But it's definitely going to be coming soon. I would guess we're going to have ice by next week, fishable ice here. You have been on the ice? Nice. Fire it is. How much ice were you on? That's awesome. I wish I had been on the ice now, but pretty much all the smaller lakes I would expect to have ice here are getting ice on them, but it's just barely, skim like half an inch so far in my area. But we are going to have some really cold temps here down in the low teens the next few nights. So I would suspect we're going to be having some ice making weather good enough to get, walkable ice by early next week. That's my prediction. Still going with the 22nd. That was kind of my call last week too. I figured by the 22nd we'd be out on the ice. But we're going to do some ice fishing Q&A. So if you guys have any questions on ice fishing in Wisconsin, ice fishing in general, ice fishing, trout on Lake Superior, whitefish, anything like that, feel free to ask away. And I might ask you guys a few questions too. So, Black Hills above 6,000 feet. Yeah, the higher elevations always get ice first, obviously. And that's the only people I've really been seeing out on the ice fishing so far is anyone who has high elevation. There's a few guys in Alaska and Canada too that are coming in with some reports of getting out on the ice, and primarily it's for stocked trout because a lot of times those stocked trout are in smaller lakes that tend to freeze faster. So some of the first fish you can really access are those stocked trout. It seems like, um, at least from the reports I've been seeing. So, like I said, we're doing ice fishing Q&A. You guys on YouTube, feel free to chat, ask some questions also. Otherwise, if I don't have any questions, I will probably just be going over some of my favorite ice fishing, uh, I guess, tips. So, Steve, thanks for joining. Very few trout naturally spawn there. Yeah, I think they're all pretty much stocked in those lakes. Obviously, in some of the streams up there in the Black Hills, they spawn really well. They have some really good spawning habitat. Thanks, After Five Outdoors. Hey, Matt M. Thanks, appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. We're doing ice fishing Q&A, so let's shoot me some questions, and hopefully I can answer them or get back to you on them if I don't know the answer. Steve O. Krieger, let's go fish Pentonwell. I've never fished Pentonwell, but I've heard good things. It's got a good daytime walleye bite from what I've heard. That would be a fun one to fish. I would love to do it. Hey, Eric, Sime, how you doing? You've been getting around lately. I keep seeing your name pop up all over the place. That's awesome, though. Yeah, we're just doing ice fishing Q&A. So, Eric, if you've got any questions for me, let me know. We can do hunting questions too. I do hunt waterfowl a lot. That's one of my other passions is waterfowl hunting. So, any ice over my way, says After Five Outdoors. Yes, we have ice. It's just not walkable ice yet. So I'm talking like half an inch, maybe an inch. and it's not really safe to walk on anywhere that around here yet, but I'm guessing it's going to be a matter of days, and it will be. Hub style houses. I love them. I've been using the Clam X400, and that's been a really good shack for me. I used it all last year. It's an insulated, like 4-man hub style house. We winter camped in it on Lake Superior last year. It was really, really awesome for that. And just, it's a good size. I really like that 400 size for what I'm doing. It gives me plenty of room to film, plenty of room for my camera gear. And it's big enough to fish 3 people too. Living MN Outdoors. Hey everyone, how's it going? After five's waiting on Red Lake and Lake of the Woods. Yeah, I think everybody's waiting on Red Lake from the sound of it. I'm trying to make the rounds. Fishing Darter V2 or the Euro Tackle Darter Z Darter version 2. What jigging technique do you use? So for you guys that don't know, that is the new Euro Tackle glide bait. So it's in that jigging wrap category. Anytime, it depends on what species I'm fishing, first of all, Eric. If I'm fishing walleyes, I'm going to use more of a cadence, like just hop that thing, real short hops, like rod tip twitches like this, and it's going to make it swim out away from the hole in one direction. And then let it glide back and stop and pause, and then just swim it out another direction and then come back and pause. For bass, for whatever reason, I have much better luck with when they're aggressive with big rips. So a pretty big jig stroke, like a foot or two, and that bait will just shoot out to the side and then come back. And then I let it completely stop and then shoot out again and come back and stop. For whatever reason, I haven't had as good a luck with walleyes ripping it that hard, but those little pause, like just jumps where it swims one way for a while and then comes back and then another way, that seems to be better for walleyes. And then for crappies, kind of similar. I actually use little hops for crappies, just a little whoop, just a little hop like that, and that bait will just kind of do this, boop, boop, and that's pretty much all I do for crappies. And then of course, once they come in on it, then I'll start raising the bait. So Q&A, guys, if you have any questions, I will try and get to them. I'm working with Instagram and YouTube tonight, so let's see what else we got. Yeah, you bet, Eric. Are the tungsten jigs worth the extra money, says Calvin? Absolutely. The tungsten jigs are, I think they're one of the biggest revolutions in ice fishing, to be honest with you. They're really a breakthrough when it comes to feeling the bait and being able to fish fast. Because part of panfish fishing is speed. It's being able to fish fast and efficient, and tungsten just allows you to do that so much better than lead. I mean, if you're using lead jigs and you want to have a really small profile on those jigs, you're just going to have to wait for them to sink so long when you could be getting down there faster with tungsten that you're losing fishing time, basically, is what you're doing. Now, there is times where lead actually outshines tungsten still, and I would say that's more when the bite is really, really kind of specifically based on a fall. And sometimes bluegills especially seem to want to hit the bait as it's falling, and sometimes tungsten falls too fast and has a little bit too hard of an action for for bluegills. But as far as just getting her done, tungsten is absolutely the bomb. And if you guys check out, I actually filmed a video all about tungsten jigs last season, like the ins and outs, hook size, color, shape, all these different details on tungsten jigs. So go watch that video if you want to learn a bit more about tungsten. I dove super in depth on them, and you can definitely check that out. That'll help you maybe answer your question a little bit better too. Changed crappie and bluegill fishing for the better. Exactly, I agree. It was a big breakthrough. After Five Outdoors says, if you couldn't use live or dead bait for walleyes on ice, what would you use to target them? That, if I only could pick one lure for walleyes and I didn't have live bait to tip it with, I would say a glide bait. So like that Euro Tackle Z Darter, something like that. For some reason, that minnow profile, you just don't need live bait on it. They hit it whether it's tipped or not, and you can work it so realistically. I would say it'd have to be a glide bait because you can jig it in place and quiver it, or you can do big aggressive, work it aggressively and it works. So I would say it'd have to be that. If I can tip a bait, it's going to definitely be a spoon, of some sort. Water and Ice says, I was sold on tungsten when on Devil's Lake, and the perch only wanted the tiniest jigs. If I'd have been using lead, it would have taken 10 minutes to get to them. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. You can just go so much smaller and still fish efficiently with tungsten. Yeah, I wonder if those clowns put tungsten in their fish before weigh-ins. It'd be more efficient, wouldn't it? Wouldn't stick out so much. They're used for tungsten if you want to cheat. Slab wraps. Yeah, slab wraps are good too. I haven't used slab wraps a ton, mainly because I typically am using Euro Tackle Z Vibers in that situation. Z Viber is another great all-around bait for just multiple different species of fish. I've caught walleyes on them, lots of walleyes in open water on them actually, and tons of largemouth through the ice. But slab wraps work too, just a little bit different. Any plastic you would try to use to tip a spoon or jigging wrap? I fished the Ontario side of Lake of the Woods across from the northwest angle. Okay. But Canada recently stopped allowing dead bait. Oh, I did not know that. That's interesting. So you're going to want something on a spoon or a jigging wrap that's going to give you some more subtle action when that bait's coming to rest. I'll tell you what, I think I haven't tried this yet, but I think the clam silkies are going to be super awesome on the bottom hook of a jigging wrap or a spoon, because they have that really wispy silk thread that is going to move with basically almost just a quiver. You're going to see that breathing. It's going to look real similar to like a minnow head with the guts kind of hanging out the back or whatever. I'm definitely going to try that this year. I'm going to try the clam silky as a jig trailer, because I think it's going to be awesome. Otherwise, you can tip them with plastics, but the less that's on your hook, I think the better when you're jigging with especially a glide bait type lure. I don't even like to put a minnow head on them because it impedes the action, but those silkies are going to flow so nice. I don't think they're going to hurt the action at all. Good question, though. Really good question. I saw that video they put out the other day with a silky on a spoon, and it looked amazing. Exactly. I think that's going to be a big game changer for me this year, because you don't have to worry about it falling off either. I don't know how many times you guys have had your minnow heads fall off while you're jigging, but it's happened to me about 1 billion times. Ever used the Berkley Vibrato? Started to use them last winter. Yeah, absolutely. The Vibrato is a killer bait, 100%. Great bait for ice fishing. We also use them on the Mississippi River early in the spring. Basically, same way you'd use any kind of vibrating blade bait. And they crush the saugers and the walleyes in open water too. And they were made pretty recently by Sebile until Berkley bought them out, but they're really absolutely great bait. I mean, they catch everything. We've caught whitefish on them. We've got big trout on them. So very solid bait. Yeah, after Five Outdoors, jig and wrap and minnow head used to be a deadly combination, but now just a citable offense. That is crazy. Interestingly enough, after Five, I have fished. You're probably pretty close to Shoal Lake, I'm guessing, and I've fished Shoal Lake before. Shoal Lake, I think, if I remember right, has had no live or dead bait for quite a few years. We always use plastics on Shoal. I've never ice fished it, but we've had a lot of fun open water fishing that lake. Thanks, Eric. Seen a video that had a buzz. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I, you know, I honestly haven't gotten mine yet. I'm waiting for it to come. We're talking about the Cold Nation Ice Defense. This is the first year I'm going to be using. It's in the mail right now. I don't remember hearing it when my buddies have used them. I think they're pretty darn quiet. It's probably the flasher. Well, like Eric said, it's probably the flasher you were hearing. I mean, I've fished next to guys using them, and I never heard them. So I highly doubt they're going to make much noise. There's not much to them. So, um, living MN outdoors, we hammered Lake Superior whitefish on the vibrato. Yeah, I've seen a lot of Lake Superior whitefish get caught on the vibrato, and I've caught some myself. My one buddy, that's almost all he uses for Lake Superior whitefish, and he catches them every time that we go out almost. Da, da, da. That's my video. It's the Vexilar older FL18. Yeah, my older FL18, that thing was so loud, especially if you get it in the right conditions when it's super cold. That thing would just whine like crazy. But the newer ones, the newer LCD flashers, they're super quiet compared to the old style. After five says I've not fished shoal. My understanding is that if you aren't native, you can't fish walleyes. That is correct. You can you can catch them. I mean, they're incidental, but it is a walleye refuge, which I don't really care about because I'd rather eat pike anyway. And you end up catching a gazillion walleyes, and there's some really big ones just fishing for smallmouth and pike. But yes, it is a walleye refuge, so you're not supposed to target them. Although you can't keep them off your line. You pass through shoal to fish Lakers towards Ptarmigan Bay. Okay. Yeah, it's a cool lake. It's a really neat lake. Let's see here. Any other questions? For you guys who have just hopped on here, we're talking Q&A, ice fishing Q&A. We've had a lot of good questions so far. I'm going to ask you guys a question right now. If you had to pick one fish to chase through the ice, what would it be? That is my question to you guys. What's your favorite fish to target through the ice? Ice fishing this weekend. I don't know if it's going to be Saturday or Sunday, but I think it's going to be probably Monday or Tuesday. That's my guess. Eric, yes, I am going to be at the St. Paul Ice Show. I'm going to be at the Euro Tackle booth on Friday, working that. And then I'm going to be hopefully getting some time on Saturday to kind of walk around and check things out and say hi to a bunch of people that I haven't even met in person yet. I've never made it to that show because it's on my kid's birthday weekend, but this time I'm going to make it there. So yeah, I'm sure we'll see you there. Get to meet you in person. That'll be awesome. We've got a crappie. We got a walleye or lake trout, another crappie, perch, Lakers, lake trout, yellow bass, Eric. That's a different one. Although I have heard that they're an absolute blast. I've never caught a yellow bass ever, actually. It's on my list, but I've not made the trip anywhere that really has any yellow bass yet. There's another walleye. I mean, I'll tell you mine. If I had one fish to chase through the ice, it would 100% be lake trout. There's just nothing like a lake trout under the ice. They're so aggressive. It's like where they want to live is in the coldest water possible, and they get cranked up under the ice. They get just insanely aggressive on your bait. They'll chase it down like they chase it down like a saltwater fish almost. And there's just something about that game of lake trout fishing that's hard to beat. I wish we had more options to fish them than Lake Superior, because Lake Superior is a short season. It just freezes up really late. And you miss out on about half the season. But it's hard to beat. Lake trout are awesome. Clear Lake, Iowa. That's got yellow bass, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to have a favorite. I agree. Have I ever fished out by Isle Royal? No. I've got several guys I work with that have all been out there and they've invited me to go with them, and I just haven't made it out there. But you never ice fish out there. No one, I don't know anyone who's ever ice fished it. But as far as open water fishing, it's a really cool place from what I've seen. I mean, a really incredible place if you can get out there. But it does take a lot of fuel, it takes a lot of skill. You got to know the lake really well, and you have to have a pretty decent boat to make it happen. And it's a heck of a trip out there to Isle Royal for sure. But it would be a lifetime adventure for sure. Everyone in your boat caught Lakers except you, huh? Oh, that's funny. Yeah, we'll be fishing Bayfield area. We'll be fishing the bay this year for brown, splake, whitefish, all that stuff. Yep. Lakers. Hopefully, we have a better season on lake trout. Last year was tough out there for ice season. We did okay on splake. Caught a few nice browns. Had a couple decent days on whitefish, but overall, it was a tough year out there. Lakers were hard to come by last year, but we did okay. Hey, Corey Studer just joined Macula Tackle. How you doing? We're just doing a little ice fishing Q&A. So Corey could probably answer some of your questions better than I can. He's a heck of an angler too. But if you have any questions for me, Corey, go ahead and ask away. Any tips for trying to time the brown bite over in Racine or Milwaukee? Missed it by a week last year. Did you miss the ice by a week, or did you miss the bite by a week? Because if you're on ice in Racine or Milwaukee, you have a legit shot at catching nice browns. It's the bite is, I mean, it's a very tricky fishery. That's what I know about Racine and Milwaukee. The guys that know it really well, they almost always catch fish. It's very rare that they go out and don't catch fish, but I'm talking guys that have grown up there and know it. You know, the fish are always there. They're always there. Yeah, it can be hot for a while, and it can also, it can also just be what you're using too, and what other people are using. A Silva Outdoor said tube jigs are the way to go. Yeah, I haven't fished those harbors much, but when I did, I actually caught more fish on tube jigs than anything else. I was using little 2-inch white tubes, and I was sight fishing in maybe 8 feet of water right in Racine, actually. And I got to watch 2 really nice browns come in and crush that tube right under my hole. I mean, it was pretty cool. I'll never forget it. I wish I had been filming back then, but I did not have a YouTube channel at that point, and I was the only one who got to see that. But hopefully, I'll make it down there again. I've got a buddy down there that lives in Milwaukee, and I've got an open invitation anytime to come down and fish, but just haven't made it. On that trip, we actually fished with Eric Hadia's crew the one day, and then fished on our own the second day. And I think we caught 10 or 11 nice browns. Nothing huge, but one was like 10 or 11 pounds, which is a heck of a brown through the ice anywhere. But even down there, it's not that impressive, A 20-pounder is impressive, but it's a totally different fishery than Lake Superior as far as size. Let's see, did I miss anybody? Bayfield. All right, another open invitation. I appreciate it. I'll let you know if we make down there. That would be fun. Eric, you've never fished Wisconsin before, huh? Interesting. So Turtle Lake, you're going to be fishing around Turtle Lake. Is that Turtle Lake, Wisconsin, or Turtle Lake, North Dakota? Because I've been through Turtle Lake, North Dakota, and we also have a Turtle Lake over here in Wisconsin area. So which one is it that you're talking about? Have you ever fished Mille Lacs, Leech, or Winnie? I have fished only Winnie, actually, and it was a long time ago. We took a trip out to Red Lake, and we hit Winnie on the way back for perch. Caught a few, but I'm hoping to spend more time over that way this year. Jake Wallace wants to do some filming for Angling Buzz over that way this year, and I'm hoping to make a trip and fish with them and do some filming. Okay, you're gonna fish with Ryan. That's awesome. He's a great guy, and a great guide. Ryan Salimi, and he catches some big panfish for sure. You'll be in good hands with him, I'm sure. Caught a 25-pound brown out of Kenosha this year offshore. That's awesome. That's a huge brown, even for there. That's really cool. My buddy who lives down there fishes out of a kayak all the time. I'm sure you've probably seen him down there. And he caught 2 years ago. He landed 892 browns, mainly out of his kayak in the Milwaukee area. And he's pretty hardcore. He pretty much fishes every day when he can get out. Max Schultz is the name. Winnie is hot past couple years. I've heard that, and not just for perch, right? I've heard the walleye fishery's gotten better down there, or over there, I should say, on Winnie. Craziest ice fishing story I have. Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, Eric, 892, and that's just browns. That's not even like all the other fish. He was catching kings, he was catching steelhead. That is just brown trout only. Yeah. And he had, he was having some 50, 60 fish days out of the kayak. So that adds up quick. But walleye's the main fishery on Winnie now. That's interesting because back when I went, it was all perch. Perch were the deal back then. Yep, lots of Minnesota in the house is right. That's cool though. Minnesota's really the ice fishing state. Wisconsin kind of gets left behind, I think, sometimes, but that Wisconsin has some great ice fishing too. Okay, getting back to your craziest ice fishing story I have. The craziest, probably, yeah, I would say it was one year we had ice on the North Shore of Lake Superior, which doesn't happen that often. It's maybe once every 10 years we get really good enough ice formed on the North Shore that actually gets locked in. That's not going to float away with you on it if the wind switches. So and when that happens, you have to go. Like it's just a requirement because it doesn't happen that often. And we were up there. We fished near shore right away in the morning, and there was massive schools of herring, like by the thousands, coming right under our hole. Like you've probably seen some of those viral videos that were shot that year of the herring schools. I mean, there were literally thousands of them just for minutes at a time. Just look down your hole, and they're just going by stacked on top of each other 20 feet deep. And we caught a bunch of those on little spoons, and then we cut them up in strips and used them out deep for lake trout. We tipped our bucktail jigs with them. And the craziest thing was I dropped to the bottom in 200 feet of water with one of those jigs and herring strips, and see a mark come cruising just above the bottom, and I start reeling up, and it just shoots up and smokes it. And my rod just yanks down, and I've got a 45-inch hot rod, real heavy action. It works really well in that deep water, and I just wham, put the boots to him, and I fought him up 100 feet. So he was halfway from the bottom up, and he's all of a sudden he just took a run and shook the hook, and I was like, oh, you fish like all day for like 3 bites up there, right? And these are big fish. Well, I'm watching my flasher, and all of a sudden I see a mark right below my bait again, and I just start jigging it and start swimming it away. And that same fish I had just lost turned around and came back up and smoked my jig again. and I hooked him again and landed him. And it was like a 15-pound lake trout. And there's just no other fish that's going to do that. Like if you miss a walleye and don't even get a hook in them, they're gone, right? So it was one of those things I'll never forget. 100% won't ever forget it. That was just so cool to land that fish. Where am I located? I am in the Spooner, Wisconsin area. So I fish Spooner, Hayward, Rice Lake area. That's kind of my home water, but I fish Lake Superior quite a bit. It's only about an hour to Superior from my house, and then like an hour and a half to the Ashland, Shawinigan Bay area. And that's just a day trip for me, so that's no big deal. I get up there every chance I can. Hands down best lake trout lure for Lake of the Woods. I don't know about for Lake of the Woods because I haven't fished lake trout on Lake of the Woods. But I know for me, I've probably caught more lake trout on paddle tail swim baits than anything else through the ice. Maybe it's just because I use them a lot, but out on Lake Superior, I've had so much luck on like 1 ounce, 3/4 to 1.5 ounce jig heads, tipped with like a 4-inch paddle tail and a little stinger hook on it, especially if they're hitting kind of light and just nipping at the tail. There's just something about that tail thumping as it swims up away from them, and then when you drop it back down, it thumps all the way down. And I've absolutely crushed lake trout with that setup myself. But that's my experience. I don't know, if that would work on Lake of the Woods, but I would be very surprised if it didn't. I used to hit the Namakagon River every year through Lake Hayward. I'm not going to talk too much about the Namakagon River, but I fish it too. I'll say that. I have caught some very nice fish out of the Namakagon River, but I don't talk about it too much. Trout are all muscle too. Yeah, they are. They are all muscle. Muscle and a big old stomach made for eating herring and smelt. Vertical jigged herring in Beaver Bay this summer. How'd that go for you? I'm curious. Are you talking Beaver Bay up the North Shore? That'd be interesting. I've wanted to get on the lake trout vertical jigging in the open water a little bit more, but so far it's just never worked out for me. But I have done it in the boundary waters a couple times, and that's really fun. We've smoked them up there vertical jigging. Any bait works as long as it's a white paddle tail. Yeah, there's another paddle tail fan I see. Yep. Yeah, Lake of the Woods is one of those places you could just explore forever, and you'd never run out of new spots. All right, for anyone who's just joining, we're just doing some ice fishing Q&A here, and I've got some folks on Instagram and I've got some folks on YouTube all joining in the live here tonight. Here's another question for you guys. I'm thinking about doing like a weekly podcast, like a kind of a YouTube podcast, and having guests on and making more of a show, kind of like I have been doing with the lives, but a little bit more formatted and more of a podcast setup where we've got a split screen and I'm more interviewing different people in the ice world, and maybe even some of you guys. Let me know if that sounds interesting to you, or and if you would watch that on YouTube, especially you guys on Instagram. Would you switch over to YouTube and watch that if I did start a video podcast? Let me know what you think. It was hard to stay on them. Yeah, that's what I've found too. Hard to stay on them. Hard to stay on lake trout vertical jigging in open water. Eric Syme thinks it's a good idea. Cool. I listen to this while I work. Awesome. What are you working on, Lost My Lure? Especially at this time of night. You should work a different shift, or you work from home, or what? Yeah, always. Okay, we got another absolutely cool. Well, it sounds like you guys are pretty positive about that. So, that's kind of my next step I want to do with the live stuff is hopefully kind of morph this into more of a podcast, a video podcast. It's going to take some work, but I think get the right people on there and a little bit more interaction with you guys. Maybe get some questions ahead of time that we can ask people. Kind of, I think it would be awesome actually. But this is fun too. I like having these discussions with you guys. Um, how long have you been doing YouTube? I ran across your channel in shorts not too terribly long ago. Yeah, any of you guys who have joined my channel from shorts, I really appreciate it. I just recently started putting shorts out maybe a couple months ago with more volume, and I've actually grown my channel quite a bit through shorts, and it's been really awesome. So I appreciate that. I've been doing YouTube about it's gonna be 3 years, I think, next spring. So I'm fairly new at it, and I'm full time. I'm a full time plumber as a trade, so I have 1 year old, a little over 1 year old, and a 9 year old. I'm super involved in, church as well. So I'm not growing as fast as I'd like to because I don't have a ton of time to put into it. But every second that I have, I'm putting into YouTube and, and a little bit of Instagram too. And it's been really rewarding so far. It's totally been worth it. And, like I always say, I'd love to be full time fishing eventually, and it'll never happen if you don't start. So that's kind of my attitude. Just growing it as much as I can. That's my goal. So just grinding away with what time I can basically scrape out, and it's been totally worth it. So build it, they will come. There you go. Shorts work for sure. Shorts have boosted your channel as well. Awesome. Yeah, they're really pushing shorts right now. YouTube is on a shorts run for sure. If you're ever interested in a collab on Lake of the Woods out of the angle, hit me up. Awesome. Yeah, I'd be real interested. Someday maybe we can make it happen. I don't know if it'll be this season, but possibly next season. Yeah, water and ice outdoors. That's a great point. It is really fun to have those memories documented. And that's kind of how I look at it too. Like, I'm going to have this huge portfolio of videos that my kids can watch, that my kids' can watch. They can learn from, how I learned to ice fish. And I think it's going to be awesome just to have that because I don't count on YouTube for keeping all my video content. I keep it all off site as well because you never know what's going to happen to YouTube, and I don't trust them to to save my content. So I also have it saved all on hard drives as well, on mass storage, just so I can have control of it too. If you ever want to meet up on Leech, Mille Lacs, or Winnie, hit me up. Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate all your invites, guys. That's awesome. I mean, eventually, at some point, I'm hoping to do some more traveling. When my son's a few years older here, and he can come with me, and my youngest is a little bit more, a little bit less work, so my wife can handle it. So in a 3 or 4 years here, I'm hoping to start getting a little more traveling in and doing some fishing trips. So eventually it'll happen. It's just tough to do it with a 1 year old at home, and it's more short, 1-2 day trips that I've been doing so far. But those will work. I just can't go super far. Yeah, yeah. Keep it on reel to reel. Nice. Yeah, thanks, Eric. You have a good night too. Thanks for stopping by, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at the show at the St. Paul Ice Show. That's going to be fun. Come to the Twin Cities and hit up some inner city muskie. You know, I have actually, I have actually fished Tonka, I think twice now. My buddy fishes it all the time. I have a really good friend. He lives about mile from the landing by the police station there on Tonka, and he catches a lot of muskies every year. And he's got 3 or 4 over 50 out of there now in the last 2 years. It's a great muskie fishery, really good. One of the best, which is kind of crazy for it being a metro lake basically, but Weldon, that show is the first weekend in December. So the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, I believe is what it is. And I'm going to be there at the Euro Tackle booth on Friday. And then hopefully Saturday, I'm going to get some time to move around and check things out and talk to people. Got 2 young girls at home, and I'm feeling pretty lucky going to Red in a couple weeks. Yeah, I am lucky too. My wife puts up with a lot for sure. She lets me get out and fish. Much more than I deserve, probably. So I'm thankful for that. Yeah, maybe we'll meet you at the Apostle Islands. It's very possible. I fish out there quite a bit, so potential is there. Do you do any tip up fishing for pike or spearing? A lot of tip up fishing for pike. I have never speared a pike. It is legal to spear pike on Lake Superior, but I've not tried it. However, I do a lot of pike fishing on tip ups. Actually, I catch a lot of pike on jaw jackers too. Hey, Nicole just joined. She was on here live with me a couple weeks ago, and actually, she's still musky fishing. Did you musky fish today, Nicole? You're kind of diehard about the whole musky thing. You caught one yesterday or the day before, I think, if I saw correctly. She's out there in her kayak still. I live by Lake Nokomis in the heart of the city. Yep. Yep. Those are all good lakes. Harriet, Calhoun. Yep. There's some big fish in all those. It's crazy because they do get a lot of pressure, but back to work. That's a bummer, Nicole, isn't it? I get it. I've been working all week too, working hard, but hopefully going to be on ice here next week. I actually have the whole deer season week off. I always take it off. And if there's ice, I usually fish quite a bit that Thanksgiving week. Landed one, lost one on the river. Should be back up on the river next week. You're gonna get back on it next week with the arm up, huh? That's awesome. You're a diehard. I'll give you that. My buddies caught the state record muskie out of Mille Lacs last November. They won't let me film with them though. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I probably wouldn't either if I was catching world record muskies. That'd be something I wouldn't want to broadcast to the world, I think. But I did see that fish. It was an absolute incredible fish. One of the craziest muskies that anyone will ever see. And that was super late, too, if I remember right. It was really late in November. Hey, Abandoned Soul, first-time viewer. Starting to get into ice fishing. You have come to the right place. It's going good. We are talking ice fishing. We're doing ice fishing Q&A, and my whole channel is devoted to fishing, but especially ice fishing. So you're going to find some good stuff. And there's a couple guys here. If you guys have a channel that has ice fishing on it and you're watching right now, mention it too, and maybe he can give you a follow as well. But Nicole's going to be on Mille Lacs on Thanksgiving if the launches aren't locked up. Nice. They might not be. That's a big lake. What is your opinion on North Dakota allowing folks to spear walleyes starting this year? I don't know anything about that, so I don't know what the regulations are as far as size limits, bag limits, where they're allowing spearing to happen. I mean, if it's walleye spearing statewide and it's 5 fish and there's a low size limit, I don't know. That seems a little crazy, but I also don't know how effective spearing walleyes is going to be until spring. So I can't imagine that you'd be able to spear walleyes consistently under the ice the whole winter, because most of the time midwinter they go deep. But I can see it really hurting the population if guys really got onto it in the late ice when they're moving up shallow again. Yeah, after 5, that's what I was thinking. It'd be tough to spear them unless they're coming in to spawn basically and staging shallow. I can't imagine it being very effective. It's not like pike that are always hanging shallow and they'll chase your decoy, into 3 or 4 feet of water. It's just walleyes don't act like that all the time. So, I mean, I don't think it's probably going to be a huge deal. I think it's a lot bigger deal that here in Wisconsin, we have the natives spearing almost every walleye lake during the spawn when the fish are in a foot of water and they're super vulnerable. I think that definitely is a lot worse for the population. I'm sure spearing is fun. I have no doubt it's a fun time. I just haven't gotten into it. I guess just because I'd rather fight a fish on rod and reel. And I actually used to bowfish quite a bit for rough fish. I used to shoot carp and suckers and red horse and stuff like that. But I don't know. It was a lot of fun, but I just kind of grew out of it, I guess. Especially once I started realizing that not all those fish were necessarily trash fish, and the carp were, but kind of the rest of them are actually native fish that I didn't really want to keep killing for no reason. So I kind of phased out of it, but I do have to try ice fishing or ice spearing sometime at some point. I think it would be worth a try at least. Um, what's a go-to lake in Minnesota to catch jumbo perch? Please don't say Mille Lacs. I mean, Winnie's always had jumbo perch. That's a well-known jumbo perch fishery that goes way, way back. Not always easy to catch them. You can catch a lot of dinks and not be on jumbos for days at a time out there. But it does have, once you get on a big school of jumbos, it can be one of the best, from what I understand anyway. Um, and Leech also it's coming into its own for perch. They've been really managing that lake well, and it's got some great perch in it. A Silva Outdoors, have you been following the Game of Inches challenge? I will say I am a fan. I mean, I've seen every one of those episodes ever since they started 39 hours, and I'm kind of a fanboy of the whole thing, even though it's a little bit gimmicky at times. Yes, I've seen every episode so far, and it's a blast. It's a blast. I just love that format of, if you guys don't know what the Game of Inches is, it's a bunch of Canadian teams, and it's multi-species ice fishing, head-to-head fishing style, and it's a absolute blast of a tournament format. I love that format. I wish we would do more tournaments like that here. And I think I'm it's on my radar to maybe even run one eventually in this area, because I think it would be a big hit. I've got a couple buddies who are pretty interested in it too, so we'll see what happens. But I think I could run one on Fish Donkey pretty easily. So if you guys would be interested in that, let me know. In a multi-species, like a seven different species, total inches of your 7 biggest fish out of each category, or your 1 biggest fish out of each category. Let me know if that sounds interesting to you guys. Lake of the Woods for the perch, not consistent. Yeah, and that's like Chihuahua Bay is the same way. Like, it's got giant jumbo perch, but they're just not easy to stay on. And you'll catch one here or there, like fishing for other stuff. And but they're to get on a big school of jumbos almost never happens. Who's my favorite team? I don't know if I've picked a favorite yet. I honestly kind of really like the newer guys. I forget their names now, but they're the Frostbite team. They're just super chill. They kind of fish like I fish. Like, uh, they don't get too crazy, but I don't know. I like their style. I like what they're doing. They just caught that big giant pike in the last episode on the tantrum. That was pretty cool. Uh, Let's see. You guys are outrunning me here. Um, yeah, Abandoned Soul. That is an awesome tourney. I love it. I love that format. Um, it would make it easier to make content with the cameraman. Yeah, no kidding. I've been self filming for 3 years, and it can be a challenge at times. Absolutely. I like the dude that jumps in the lake. Yeah, AP. He's a goofball for sure. He is a goofball. I wish uncut angling was still a part of the game of inches. Yeah, do any of you guys know what happened or why Aaron Weeb like dropped out? Because I haven't actually heard what happened there. I looked it up. I was trying to look it up and I couldn't find anything on it why he dropped out. But I mean, absolutely, if he was on there, he'd be my number one team for sure. I mean, I'm a huge Aaron Weeb fan. Like that, he's one of the guys that got me inspired enough to actually start a YouTube channel. And he's just kind of a legend, and such a unique style he has. Um, my friend Andrew Anderson is scared of the ice, but he said he'd brave the ice this year. If you give him a shout out, tell him to go ice fish with me. Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. You need to try ice fishing. There's no reason to be scared. Go on the ice, in the middle of the season, and when the ice is thick, go with somebody who knows what they're doing, and you'll have a blast. Absolutely. Um, Started YouTube in February 2020. Yeah, that's about when I started. Actually, really close. Lots of bumps along the way, but I've learned a lot and met a lot of people all over the world. Yeah, it's a great time. I love filming. I love editing. I love all of it. I love the industry. It's great. And yes, GoPros they can really they can really be a pain. But you know what? I have filmed probably 95% of the videos on my channel with my iPhone. And my iPhone is almost never glitches. It almost never loses footage. It almost never loses audio. It's so much more reliable than a GoPro. I can't even tell you, which is part of the reason I almost never use a GoPro. But I'm actually thinking about filming a video and showing you guys my setup for my iPhone because I have a really awesome setup for self filming. It's basically like a GoPro adapter that fits a clamp, and I can use all my GoPro accessories with my iPhone. And I have one of the gooseneck clamps, and I have a cold shoe mount with a Rode Video Mic Pro with an adapter that goes right into my iPhone for better audio. It's a shotgun mic, and I also use like a remote Bluetooth lapel mic too set up for if it's real windy. I can tuck it into my shirt. I might do a video on that setup because I can clip it anywhere. I can clip it on a tripod if I want, but I can also clip it to the roof of my shack. I can clip it, to a bucket. I can clip it literally anywhere, and I've got immediately good audio, and it's been a great setup for me for self filming. Starting to learn to use the phone more, but scared of losing it overboard. Yeah, I haven't done that yet. Somehow I've managed to hold on to mine. I've dropped it here and there, but luckily not down the hole. But it's nice when you have that plug. You're plugged into that speaker into the lightning port because if it does happen to pop out of the clamp, that cord holds it, so it's not going to fall typically. Um, yeah, GoPros, they're a real pain in the butt some days. And yes, the big question of the day, how are the Packers doing? I'm assuming you're a Vikings fan. I have noticed a lot of Vikings fans crawling out of their holes this year, and that's fine for a year. You can crawl out of your hole and toot your horn, but Green Bay is always going to be a better team. I said what I said. That'd be awesome. Just started using my phone for deer hunting this fall in the tree stand. Footage is amazing. Yeah, like iPhones take incredible footage. They're 4K, awesome footage. You just can't beat them. They're just so easy to use too. Shout out if any of you guys are Green Bay Packer fans too. I need some support here. Hey Jake Wallace just joined. How you doing? Smalley's from the boat today on Lake Simcoe. You're still out there, huh? That's awesome. It's got to be getting cold over there, I would think. But this is big smallmouth time for sure. Like if you want to catch a trophy smallmouth, other than pre-spawn, this is one of the best times to do it. After 5, quit watching football when they started the anti-police, anti-American stuff. Yeah, I kind of lost my enthusiasm for it too when that happened. A 6-pound 3-ouncer was the biggest fish today. Yeah, that is a absolute tank smallmouth, and I know Simcoe grows some big ones. Yep, it is the Vikings year. I know, Jake. It might be. You might be right about that, but it's still been the Packers' century, so we'll take it. But it is not looking good for Green Bay this year, for sure. Not looking good at all. But the Vikings are playing really well, I got to say. I will say they are the best I've seen them in a long time. Looking for the 8-pounder. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people looking for an 8-pound smallmouth. I mean, that's a crazy big fish. Do we get Rodgers next year? I hope not. That was one of the most disappointing things that ever happened in football was when Brett Favre quit the best NFL team ever and went to the Vikings. That was so lame. So lame. Oh. Yeah, it's not looking good. I agree. So, any of you guys just joined, we're just doing some ice fishing Q&A. I do have to wrap it up here. Probably we'll give her another 5-10 minutes, and then I got to wrap it up. I got to get to work early tomorrow so I can take off next week and do some rifle hunting and some fishing. So, one thing I've learned about the Vikings, they will lose first round or second round. Well, the Green Bay has been doing that too the last few years, so they've not done so well in the playoffs. What am I targeting species wise lately, buddy? I am targeting, well, I haven't done a ton of fishing here the last few weeks because I've been waterfowl hunting quite a bit. So my species have been mallards and pintails and gadwalls and widgeon and canvasbacks. That's my little break from fishing. Is this time of year I like to do a lot of duck hunting, do some deer hunting as well. But as soon as the ice hits, I'm going to be on the ice no matter what. So it's looking like next week, hopefully. Yep. Just be thankful we were robbed by New Orleans or he would have won a Super Bowl with the Vikings. Yeah, maybe. It's possible. Yeah, so hopefully you guys are getting out and doing some hunting too. Let me know if you guys hunt. Fall is always such a hard time of year for a guy who hunts and fishes because there's so much to do and it's too much. It's like sensory overload in the fall. Right on. Hunting is in full swing. Yes, it is. So you guys have pheasants over there. That's interesting. I always think that you guys are like more northern latitude than we are here in Wisconsin because you're in Canada, but you're actually further south than we are, which is kind of crazy. So you actually have a little bit warmer climate than we do. Ever see snow geese or wood ducks? I have seen snow geese. Rarely. We've shot a couple. Wood ducks, we are the wood duck central. Like it's wood duck heaven over here. We have tons of oak trees, lots of backwaters, and wood ducks absolutely love this area. So, I mean, there's about 2 weeks of the season you could pretty much shoot a limit of wood ducks almost every day. You probably could. Yeah, wood ducks are swarming over here, but they get out of here pretty much by the first week of November, they're pretty much gone. And all we have left are the bigger ducks and a few green teal stick around. But and Crappie Central, yeah, we've got a lot of good crappie lakes. We're very fortunate to have the number of good crappie lakes we have. We don't have a ton of trophy crappie fisheries, but we have a lot of very solid lakes that put out unbelievable amounts of 10 to 12 inch, 13-inch crappies. I mean, they get pounded and just people harvest tons and tons of fish and they just keep cranking them out. It's pretty impressive. As far as numbers go, pretty hard to beat this area for crappies. Pheasants are good so far. That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, Andrew likes fishing. That's good. Worst deer hunting season ever. Ooh. It's probably been mine too, but I've only sat in the stand twice with the bow, so I can't really complain. I haven't put in the time to really say that I did it justice by any means. Just been too busy. But like I said, gun season's coming up. I will be taking off the whole season. I find the best lakes that hold big crappie have pike in them. Yeah, that's true because the pike love to eat them and they keep the numbers down. They keep them from the population from getting too big and stunting out. So yeah, I would agree with that. Pike are definitely one of the top crappie predators. There's no doubt about it. And a nice like 5-6 inch crappie is a really good pike bait. You can't use them in Minnesota legally, but in Wisconsin we can catch crappies and throw them right on a tip up. And some of the biggest pike I've ever seen come through the ice have been on live crappies. Favorite fish to eat? All right, that is a good question. So if you're counting Lake Superior, I would say coho salmon are probably my favorite fish to eat out of Lake Superior, followed by splake and burbot. Like those are probably the trifecta of my favorite fish, and they're all out of Lake Superior. If you discount Lake Superior, probably perch. I would say for a freshwater inland fish, just consistently good eating fish, I'm going to go with perch. Walleyes, meh. I could live without walleyes. They're okay. They're kind of bland, kind of boring, I guess. They'll do on a fish fry for sure, but I'm not a huge fan of walleyes. I love pike. Pike are probably second on the list for me behind perch. And then bluegills are good. I like a good bluegill fry, but I actually really really love bass. I hate to say it. I don't hate to say it. I don't give a crap what people think. I love bass, and we have a overpopulation problem of largemouth up here, and I keep 12 to 14-inch bass almost every time out ice fishing, and I think they're better than walleye. I've had them side by side with walleye so many times that I honestly think the bass are better. They're just like a big bluegill. They're really almost identical to a big bluegill. Yep. Yeah, I've never found a lake that doesn't have pike. That's kind of how it is down here too. Almost every single lake has at least some snakes in it. Whitefish in Lake Superior is our new favorite fish to eat. Yeah, whitefish, Lake Superior whitefish are really solid. I'll definitely keep them if I'm catching them, and they're really good, really good, absolutely. Abandoned soul. I stopped eating pike many many years ago. Why did you stop eating pike? I'm curious. I think they're great. They're underrated for sure, just like Billy said. Um, Summer pike, not so much. Yeah, crappies. I think they're mushy. I think you can overcook them too, and they get even mushier. Like when you fry them. I mean, they're okay. Crappies are not my favorite fish to eat though. they're okay. Oh, the bones. Yeah, so you gotta learn to Y bone those pike out. That's I never get a bone in a pike. I fillet the Y bones out, and they're absolutely delicious. It takes a little practice. I think I do actually have a video on my channel about I did include how I fillet out the Y bones on a pike. I believe it's uh, called Pike Fishing in a Duck Slough. I filmed it last season. I was out in the early teal season, and I brought my rod with me and caught a couple pike. And I'm pretty sure I show how to take the Y bones out in that video. It's like a catch, clean, cook video. So you might want to check that one out. I probably wouldn't eat them either if I had bones in them. I'm just not interested in picking bones out of my teeth. Whitefish have a Y bone. Nope, whitefish have a true lake whitefish has the exact same bone structure as a trout. So they've got a clean fillet except for the one row of pin bones that comes off of the rib cage, and you just slice on either side of them, peel them out, and you're good to go. The reason pike bones are so tricky is because they come down and then they go over like through the center of the fillet to the back, and there's meat on both sides of them, and you got to cut them out of the fillet to really get the full fillet. They're definitely trickier. Whitefish actually are pretty easy to fillet. They're pretty clean. But one thing I do with all my fish is bleed them out. I always bleed my fish out before I clean them. Anything bigger than like a bluegill, I won't. But anything bigger than that, pike, bass, whitefish, trout, salmon, all of those I'm gonna bleed out before I fillet them. Makes a huge difference on the fillets for sure. Oh, that's an interesting one. Um, had a bone stuck in the back of my throat for 2 months, so that does not sound good. I'd say my favorite fish to eat is flathead catfish, especially the belly meat. Channel cats, on the other hand, meh. Well, it's funny you mentioned belly meat because I actually one of my favorite cuts of any fish is burbot belly. So I've got a video on that too. Basically, burbot have a big old fat belly on them, and it's about on a big burbot. It's probably a good solid 3/8 of an inch to half an inch thick, and you can skin it super easily. You take that belly meat, and it kind of comes out in two nice chunks, and I slice it like basically like calamari. So I slice it into quarter-inch strips and then bread it and fry that up just like you would fry calamari, and it's so dang good. One of my absolute favorites. Never throw those burbot bellies away ever again. They're so good. Burbot are way north. Yes, they are. They're a cold water fish, deep water fish. They do not typically live too far south of us, actually, up here in northern Wisconsin. There's very few lakes south of like mid Wisconsin that have burbot. Lake Superior is loaded with them. Does burbot really taste like lobster? No, it doesn't really taste like lobster, but it has a consistency that's similar. It's kind of a more firm fish, and if you boil it in like a sweet flavored water boil, it has a flavor reminiscent of lobster, I would say, and dip it in garlic butter, and it's absolutely incredible. But to say it really actually tastes like lobster, I think is a stretch. I think it's just the way you cook it that they're referring to when they say freshwater lobster. Never even seen a burbot. Yeah, they aren't much to look at. I'll say that they're not the prettiest fish in the world, but they are. They're unique and they're delicious. So, yes, we night fish for burbot, dead or live smelt on the bottom, weighted down so they can't swim too far. And usually we fish them on tip ups. You can also fish like a big glow spoon, pound the bottom with it with a bunch of meat on the hooks. But they're not finicky. They just need to see it and they'll pretty much eat it. If it's got any kind of live bait or dead bait on it, you just got to attract them. I like to put a live smelt on the bottom, hooked through the tail, so it kind of struggles in the mud. That seems to be my best burbot bait. We'll catch them all night doing that. Missouri River has some burbot. That's possible. Yeah, it might have some. That's a deep enough river and it's far enough north that there may be burbot in there. Winnie burbot are really pretty, bright yellow and greens. Yeah, they get some crazy colors on them over there. I guess they're pretty in their own way. Even Lake Superior burbot are pretty cool looking fish. They have some cool patterns on them. Sometimes they're real yellow looking. You know, I got a lot of burbot videos on my channel, so if you guys want to check out how we do that, there's tons and tons of. I think I have 4 or 5 different burbot videos on there. So yeah, burbot's an eel pout, same fish. Yep, it's funny how many names they have, but they are the same fish. Burbot, eel pout, ling, lawyer. Thanks, Great White Knight. I appreciate that. Yeah. So I think I am going to wrap it up. I got to get up and work in the morning, but this has been a fun one. I actually really like just kind of going one on one with all you guys, and it's been a pretty good night. Lots of good conversation here. So, and like I said, I'm thinking about starting up a YouTube show of some sort. So, like a video podcast. So, stay tuned for that. If you guys have any suggestions for me, DM me. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you like to watch, and I can try and do my best. So, one more question I'll take. What do you feel is the best way to keep your tip-up holes from freezing? I tried putting hand warmers on a floating plastic ball last year, but it didn't work as well as I imagined. Okay, Stephen Hillman. I have a video title already in the works to address exactly what your question is. So I'm not going to give away too much. Just subscribe to the channel, and there will be a video coming out on basically 5 different ways to keep your hole from freezing, because I know that's a big problem. And I've done some research on it, tried a few things, and I figured I'd film a video on what works for me and kind of some things I've learned about keeping the hole open. So I'm not going to tell you the answer. You'll have to watch the video, but very good question. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. Appreciate all your questions too. That keeps the dialogue running, and it's been fun. Been really fun. You guys all have a good night. We'll see you next week. I'm not sure what we'll have in store, but I'm sure it'll be good. So, see you later, guys.